Welcome back to the Angry Man Podcast with Jason and Greg. So, Jay, you know that Oscar De La Hoya has been doing a tremendous job, and I do mean a tremendous job promoting this quote-unquote Super Bowl of boxing. So he's basically talking about during Super Bowl weekend having this really huge boxing event. And in my opinion, Jay, on the surface, I don't believe that that's a bad idea. I think you can leverage Super Bowl weekend and kind of
And
piggyback
yeah,
off of that and find opportunities to promote your fighters and the fight during that particular weekend. Do not believe that that's a bad idea whatsoever. And Oscar De La Hoya has been calling for different promoters and media outlets to work together in order to make fights. Now, of course, Oscar has also been a contributing factor to why fights have not been made, of course. So he plays a role in this as well. But I believe that his idea
but
is truly a good one. Now, of course, this Super Bowl of boxing, he's thrown out a number of different names. He threw out Devin Haney's name at one point. Of course, the opponent would be Ryan Garcia, no matter what. But from my understanding, and we've heard this, but we have not been able to confirm this at all. Hopefully, we'll get the opportunity to have Jake Donovan back on the show, and he can tell us what he's been able to confirm relative to these fights. But supposedly there are some negotiations or at least some conversations going on between Ryan Garcia and Teofimo Lopez. So that would be a hell of a fight as far as I'm concerned. I would love to see that fight. And I can't recall exactly who Oscar talked about in terms of who might be on the undercard of that fight. I can't remember if it was Zerto or somebody like that. But Dana White is back at it again. Dana has, it seems like, no love lost for anybody associated with boxing. So recently he attacked Showtime and Steven Espinosa, and he has always been at odds with Oscar De La Hoya for whatever reason. So he decided to weigh in on this quote unquote Super Bowl of boxing, basically saying that it will be one fight with quote unquote a shitty undercard. So overall, I guess it would be
hey,
considered a shitty idea. So Jay, um, I would say this. He probably has a point to some extent because what we've seen in the past, specifically from Golden Boy and Top Rank, are poor undercards, cars that we wouldn't necessarily be interested in seeing. And to be quite honest with you, the PBC's undercard haven't been the greatest either until this year. This year, the PBC has done a tremendous job with putting on some of the best fights in the sport, probably in hopes of saving the relationship with Showtime. But we'll wait
yeah,
till all that is announced. But Dana White does have a point in terms of the undercard. Typically, when you have the two big names, then the undercards are typically trash, and that's something that boxing does need to get away with. They need to figure out ways to match up younger fighters or put opposition opponents, fighters on the undercard that are going to be compelling fights. I think that's important because that's going to attract not only the individuals who are the hardcore fans, but the general public. They'll be tuned in for the big fight. The hardcore fans will be tuned in for both fights. So I think that's the way to go. But at the end of the day, Dana White, I mean, he's going to hate regardless for whatever reason he has an issue with anybody
yeah.
related to boxing. So, Jay, what's your thoughts on the comments from Dana White? I'm curious.
I mean, which sport has the largest gates this year?
It's easy. Boxing.
Yeah, the top three. So I mean, also fighters are getting paid more in boxing, and to my understanding, because that's one of the things that, much as I don't agree with the whole YouTube boxing and everything, but that's what Jake Paul's been talking about. That's why he's been ethering Dana's every chance he get, about how Dana doesn't pay his fighters in the UFC. That's why a lot of, I mean, his one of his biggest prize possessions, and God knows what he doing. He came over to boxing for a circus show with Tyson Fury.
Mm-hmm.
So Dana need to get real. I mean, yeah, he has named fighters. They have in UFC, they're able to have more of a personality, yeah, and that's what really sells, not necessarily their skills. I mean, Nate Diaz, I like Nate Diaz because he's funny as hell out there, but his record is not the best. I mean, dude got like 11, 12 losses. I mean, when he came to boxing to fight Jake Paul, that was a horrendous show of boxing skills. You know, so I mean, And even Nate Diaz, like he don't mess with Dana no more. So I mean, Dana is always a hater when it comes to boxing. I mean, I think both sports can exist together, because they're attracting a different type of crowd. The UFC is more like a WWE type crowd with the way Dana presents it and the way they have all those personalities and everything like that. Not necessarily the skill, because when you see them stand up, a lot of those MMA fighters doing stand up and they're trying to box, it looks like almost like a street fight at a bar to me. There's no technical with that. So that's why I'm like, UFC going to boxing, no. Boxing going to UFC, no. They're both individual sports in that aspect there. But Dana is just hating. To your point about the undercards, yeah, some of the undercards have been underwhelming for sure. Difference than UFC. I check out on UFC and MMA fights as well, and those undercards be underwhelming as well. So I mean, don't sit there and act like your product is just putting the best shows out there from top to bottom when they're not. They both need work. But his contention with Steven Espinoza, Oscar De La Hoya, Bob Arum, all them is just crazy to me, man. I'm just like, he's using them to really almost clout chase and big up his own product. Maybe his product is not doing so well, so he's having to use boxing, because he's been talking about Steven Espinoza quite a bit. Steven Espinoza don't say nothing about Dana unless Dana's already said something beforehand. Now he did throw a jab at the before the Jamel Charlo and Canelo fight. He threw a jab because Dana had said something on Twitter before. But yeah, I mean, as far as Golden Boy, yeah, Golden Boy's product hasn't been the best this year. It's when I look at some of their undercards, even the fight they just had, last week with Zero being the headliner. That card from top to bottom wasn't the best, but it also wasn't pay-per-view. Now you did have to have the zone to watch it, but it wasn't pay-per-view, so you really can't complain about it, because if you had a product already, it's kind of like included with your subscription. And Top Rank, a lot of their stuff, they might not be the best, but they're also on free TV. UFC has damn near a pay-per-view almost every damn month or every other weekend. No one's going to keep paying for that when that card ain't stacked neither. So Dana's just a hater to me. He just always hating on boxing. I don't understand it.
So I don't want to degrade the UFC by saying that they're not skilled. They're skilled in what they do, which is, a lot of grappling and kind of jiu-jitsu type
stuff.
Not
boxing. They're not skilled boxers. That's what I'm talking about.
Not strikers. And then as far as Top Rank being on free TV, that's true in some cases, but Devin Haney versus Vasily Lomachenko was pay-per-view. And as I understand it, I believe Shakur Stevenson will also be pay-per-view this go around. So am I
on Thursday night?
I thought it was going to be. You sure?
Nah.
So, but they've had a number of events that have been pay-per-view as well. But specifically when they have bigger names, because those bigger names want the bigger purses. But I don't disagree with you. Dana White, he has a point to some extent, but also in some regard, there's a lot of hate in what he's saying. So I don't know if you found it. Did you see anything there in regards to whether it's a pay-per-view or not? For some reason, I thought I saw that somewhere. Well, maybe it's not. We'll see. Somebody in the comment section, they'll let us know. So you guys let us know if Shakur Stevenson versus Edwin De Los Santos is actually going to be a pay-per-view event. And also your thoughts. Okay, so it's not? Okay. And also your thoughts in regards to what Dana White had to say relative to the Super Bowl of boxing. I don't even know if that's going to occur, but we'll see. Don't forget to hate, like, comment, and subscribe. This is the Angry Man Podcast, AM Sports Media, and we are